But it isn't just Canadian exports who will suffer as a result of Mr. Trump's tariffs. Generally speaking, tariffs end up being a tax paid for by domestic consumers, which means that Americans will shoulder the burden of Trump's decision via higher prices. Erica York, Vice President of Federal Tax Policy at the Tax Foundation, explains what this means for Americans and the U.S. economy and the president's mandates from voters to lower the cost of living.
We've estimated that the proposed tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China would increase taxes in the United States by more than $100 billion in 2025. On average, that would be more than $800 per US household, or as a share of after tax income, that's a decrease of 0.8%. If you also factor in the economic harm that these tariffs would cause, incomes would fall by a further amount that we've estimated at 1.1% on average. The tariffs would shrink US economic output by 0.4%. Most of that negative effect is driven by the much larger tariffs that Trump has promised on Canada and Mexico. It'll have a significant negative impact on certain industries. If we think about the US auto industry and how integrated that is across the North American economy, they would see a negative hit. We would also want to look at industries that are targeted by retaliation, whether that is the wine industry, the distilled spirits industry, US ag producers. So all of these industries that either rely on imports or rely on exports would see employment hurt because of the disproportionate burden that tariffs would create for their business model. It's impossible to reconcile wanting to have a pro-growth policy agenda, wanting to reduce costs, and one of your first actions being a massive tax increase on American taxpayers. It's not really even clear what the strategy, what the ask is behind these tariffs, especially the tariffs on Canada. It does not make any economic sense to start a trade war with some of your closest allies. The only thing that can come from that is economic damage. And even if the tariffs are ultimately delayed or not left in place for very long, they'll create lasting damage because they increase uncertainty. They mean the US is not as a reliable trade partner as we were before. And all of that is bad for business investment. It's bad for economic growth. It's bad for the American consumer.